Secretary of State is questioning whether the medical marijuana petition really did have enough signatures to get on the Nebraska ballot.
The ballot sponsors believe they're being unfairly targeted in an unprecedented way and that the system should let voters decide. Brian Mastery picks up Decision 2024 coverage from Lincoln.
Inside is day one of the trial to determine whether a judge will allow the votes to count for the medical cannabis petition. Early voting is well underway in Nebraska, a week away from Election Day. That was on full display outside the Lancaster County Courthouse this morning.
At the end of this trial, we intend to ask you to hold the sponsors, the offending circulators, and the complicit notaries responsible for the choices that they have made.
The Secretary of State argues that the petition he already certified, meaning it had enough valid signatures to go on the ballot, now has too many questionable signatures. Those behind the ballot petition say they won't defend one signature collector alleged to have pulled names out of the phone book, but that's, in their view, not enough to sink the petition. And when it comes to going after notary mistakes, the court, in their view, shouldn't throw out everything they touch. The ballot petition attorneys question why investigators are doing things in this case that have never been handled that way before.
And outside of the notaries in this case, are you aware of any instances where criminal charges were brought against a notary public for malfeasance?
Objection, Foreman Foundation.
Overruled.
No, not aware of anything like that.
Those behind the petition drive tried to chip away at all of the allegations of votes that should be disregarded in the 11th hour.
Mr. Keene has alleged that Secretary Evnen illegally counted at least 48 signatures where the voter was not a registered voter until after the petition was filed. Does your office deny that allegation?
Without being presented the evidence, which we have never had, we deny the allegation.
The first day of testimony wrapped with two witnesses who alleged fraud. A private company hired to examine the signatures and notaries, and a fraud investigator for the Nebraska Secretary of State. On your side in Lincoln, Brian Mastery, 6 News.
Judge had a conflict tomorrow, so the trial resumes Thursday morning.